The Atlanta Braves offense heats back up over the weekend after a sweep of the Milwaukee Brewers and will prep for the trade deadline. Will the Atlanta Braves make any big moves? We'll discuss all that on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on Twitter at shortstopball. Make sure you check out my written work over at bravestoday.com. Make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback that you have for the podcast. And make sure if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Hit that thumbs up button on this video as well to help support the show. Thank you so much for all the support that you give me, making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Thank you so much for the views, the comments. You've been absolutely crushing it lately, and I thank you so much for all that. Looking forward to the rest of this season. We got plenty of off-season coverage as well here on Locked On Braves, so make sure you're subscribed all year long. Want to give us a shout out to some of my everydayers from the last couple of episodes: Gary Gibson, Robert Burton, NAWL Wiffle Ball. Brian Robbins had been watching every day for 2 months now, so officially has considered himself part of the Everyday Club, so appreciate that. Dave Roseman, Tim Corvino, Colby Epps, Sir Marshall, and John Varner. Thanks so much for letting me know that you are everydayers. If you are listening and you listen to this every day, let me know down in the comment section below on YouTube. On today's episode, we'll recap the weekend series against the Brewers, a really good one for the Braves as they won all three, and that's usually pretty good. The offense kind of broke out there, but is that offense overshadowing some of the Braves' weaknesses? I want to discuss that as well, so it won't all be rosy on this podcast talking about the series sweep. Then we'll have our Minors Monday segment, as we always do. Got some 2023 draft picks who have gotten underway, and then we'll talk about latest on the trade front. Braves did make a small move on Sunday. We'll discuss that for Nicky Lopez and what else is going on in the trade news cycle going on right now. Could be stuff breaking as we speak. That's the time of the year that we're in. It's really exciting time of the season. So let's get into the weekend recap here. As I mentioned, a series sweep of the Milwaukee Brewers. Obviously, Milwaukee's a really good team and playing really good baseball. They've been leading that NL Central here, although I think the Reds have now jumped in front of them by a half game because of the help of the Braves this past weekend. So really good to get a sweep of that Milwaukee Brewers team. It helps you get over some of the bad losses the Braves have had since the break. Certainly, you get a couple of wins like this, or three of them rather. Makes you feel a little bit better with the direction that the Braves are going. They're now up 11.5 games in the division over the Marlins. So, again, not even during the bad stretch the Braves were in, it's not like anybody else in the division really took advantage of that. So, Braves still have a very comfortable lead. An offensive explosion over the weekend, and the offense had been kind of up and down. We mentioned the fact that they had several games here recently where they had scored 3 runs or less, which is not typical for this offense. You go against a Brewers team has a really good pitching staff. The Braves didn't see their best starters in this one, but put up a ton of runs on them. 29 runs, 41 hits in the weekend, something that I particularly love. We talked about a lot on here, and the Braves have been one of the worst in baseball with runners in scoring position this season. But on the weekend, 12 for 24. It wasn't just a long ball on the weekend, and there were plenty of those, but 12 for 24 with runners in scoring position. On Saturday, they were 6 for 9 with runners in scoring position. So they did a much better job in this series of getting those hits with runners on base. So that's great to see. Everyone had a hit in the first 2 games. That is not normal. But again, we talk about it all the time with this Braves lineup and the depth that it has, 1 through 9, back-to-back games where everybody in the lineup had a hit. That's pretty incredible. And on Sunday, all but 2 players had at least 1 hit. So again, a great offensive showing from this lineup. We know what they're capable of doing. We had talked last week about the fact that Marcell Ozuna was having another cold streak, pretty much, similar to the one that he had in April. He was having a similar July. Well, he changed that in 3 games. Over the weekend, he hit 4 home runs, had 6 hits in all. So he turned things around. And A lot of you are asking, why does Brian Snitker continue to put Ozuna in there? That's why, because he's capable of going on hot streaks like that. I've said in the past, you got to be careful on when the cold streaks come and maybe know when to give somebody else an opportunity in there. But when you got a guy with that much power who's capable of producing at that level, he's going to continue to get run out there, especially, like I said, he was one of the best hitters in all of baseball for 2 months previously. It was going to take a while or a long stretch before Brian Snitker thought of making any moves there. And thankfully he didn't over the weekend, as Ozuna had a big one. Rosario as well had 3 hits, including a double and a home run. So it was a good weekend for him. I'd still be okay at the trade deadline searching for an upgrade over Rosario in left field. I would still love to get somebody that would be a pretty big upgrade defensively and maybe somebody that has a similar type of bat. I don't want to get rid of Rosario. I still, like what he can do and use him in certain situations. I think he's such a valuable threat off the bench. We've seen him come through in big situations for the Braves in his tenure while he's been here. So it's not that I want to get rid of Rosario necessarily. It's just I really want to see somebody out there that is capable defensively of making the plays that you need to make. And we'll talk more about defense here in a second. So I'm sure Alex Anthopoulos is looking there, but I don't know exactly who would be an upgrade out there, who would be available. But I would still be okay searching for an upgrade over Rosario in left field. Big series for a lot of players. Already mentioned Ozuna and Rosario. Ronald had a big series as well. 7 hits on the weekend, scored 5 runs, 3 runs batted in, had a home run, had a stolen base in each game. Became the first player in baseball history to reach 20 home runs and 50 stolen bases before the month of August. Again, we've been talking about a lot on the postcast this year. I haven't necessarily mentioned it as much here, but Ronald is having a historic season, one like we've never seen before. He's got 2 months left. Just hope that he can keep this up, because it's going to be truly remarkable what his numbers look like in the end with the pace that he is on. He himself has said he wants to play 162. That is his goal. So we'll see if he actually does that and if he can stay healthy. Again, I think we're going to see a season like we've never seen it before. But he's got some competition in that MVP race from his own teammate, and that is Matt Olson. 3 home runs on the weekend, 2 big ones on Sunday, the last one giving the Braves the lead in the 8th inning. On the season now for Matt Olson, 259. I said at the beginning of the year, I thought with the shift going away, the average might go up some. Really, the shift hasn't affected him at all because he hits the ball in the air so much. But I thought if he could get back to being a 260 hitter, I thought we would see an MVP type version of Matt Olson, and he's hitting 259 now, 361 on base. He's always done a great job of getting on base. 584 slugging percentage, that's first in the National League. A 945 OPS, that's third in the National League. 35 home runs is first as well in the league. 19 doubles, 79 runs scored, and that's fourth in the National League. 88 runs batted in is first. 61 walks is fifth. He has struck out 123 times, but that's gotten better each month as the season has gone on. He's sixth in the National League in WRC+. Again, all the numbers are there for Matt Olson to be in that MVP discussion. The problem is Acuna's ahead of them in a lot of those categories. And as I just mentioned, Acuna is doing things we've never seen before in terms of the speed power combination that he's displaying. But if it weren't for Acuna and maybe a couple others who are having a good season in the National League, Matt Olson certainly has an MVP case to be made. And again, there's 2 months left before it's all said and done. He could factor into that as well. He had a really good weekend. And Austin Riley stays hot. 5 hits on the weekend, 2 home runs. He's 17 for 44 in his last 44 at-bats, 17 hits, 8 home runs. He has the most home runs in all of baseball since the All-Star break and the highest OPS in the National League since the All-Star break. And now you look at his month of July, he's slashing 289, 326. We'd love to see that on-base percentage a little higher, but a 644 slugging percentage with 9 home runs, 21 runs batted in. He loves the month of July. Hopefully this time he continues it into the final 2 months of the season, but he has been absolutely on fire here lately. You get Ronald, Olson, and Riley going at the top of that lineup, 3 of your first 4 hitters, the way they're going right now, and you can see why this offense is putting up 29 runs in a 3-game series. The only downside of the lineup right now is Sean Murphy. Went over 4 on Sunday, 3 strikeouts, and honestly, looked completely lost in every single at bat, just flailing at pitches up there. It looked awful. The worst I've seen Sean Murphy look all season long. Just 4 hits in his last 10 games, just 1 extra base hit and 13 strikeouts. He is in a really bad rut right now, to the point where maybe you give Travis d'Arnaud a couple of more days in there and let Sean Murphy kind of work on some things. But some players, they want to work on the field. That's all up to Murphy. But either way, he's in a bit of a rut right now. Not worried about it overall. I think it's amazing that he's been in this 10-game slide, been so bad, and he still has a 909 OPS, which tells you how good he's been all season long. He'll get it turned around and figure it out, but he just looks absolutely lost at the plate right now. Another thing that might be somewhat concerning is the offense covering up the weaknesses for the Braves right now. We've seen it, even during their hot stretch in June and then the 1st of July before the All-Star break. They were winning a lot of their games because they were scoring a lot of runs. And even this past weekend, they won these 3 games because they put up a lot of runs. The pitching allowed 18 runs on 25 hits this weekend. Some of that's a little bit deceiving and misleading. Elder was great, and he's somebody that you certainly want to count on in your rotation. He was fantastic. I thought he could have gone complete game in that one if the Braves didn't have such a big lead and needed him to. 14 of the 18 runs allowed on the weekend were allowed by Chirinos, Heller, Hearn, and McHugh. There's a chance that none of them factor into the postseason roster. Hearn is already off the team, and the trade we're going to talk about here later for Nicky Lopez. I don't think Chirinos is on the postseason roster. Heller has made some good outings for the Braves here lately, but he's kind of slid some. And then I've been very honest in saying I think McHugh is the last man on the bullpen right now. He's having just a really bad year when you look at his metrics. He's not getting any swings and misses. He was not great in the game. I also thought he could have had a little bit of help from his defense. And that's the other part I want to talk about, is the offense covering up the weaknesses of the defense. And more so than the pitching for me, because like I said, the pitchers that are getting hurt are guys that I don't think the Braves are going to rely on in the postseason. But one thing that does worry me is the offense covering up the weaknesses of the defense. It's not just errors, and I tweeted this out over the weekend. It's plays that could be made that aren't. These are plays that are not errors. They don't go down in the scorebook as errors, but they're plays that really good teams need to make. And sometimes they're the difference in winning or losing a game. I go back to the Diamondbacks series that the Braves had, and I've watched the Diamondbacks play a couple of games over the weekend as they had some good games against the Mariners. And you look at the plays that they make, and they're one of the best defensive teams in all of baseball. And it's just a huge difference. And I go back to that 16-13 game against the Diamondbacks that the Braves lost. And the Diamondbacks made a lot of great plays in that game. Yes, the Braves still scored 13 runs, but they could have scored even more if it wasn't for that Diamondbacks defense, specifically their outfield defense. And then you go with the flip side, the Braves made 3 errors in that game, several other plays that could have been made that weren't, and that's why they lost that game. It just worries me that this defense is going to come back to haunt the Braves in a crucial spot. And again, it's not errors. It's just plays that could be made that aren't. You look at the ball, I think it was on Sunday, a ball hit pretty hard in the hole to Arcia's right, but a ball that he needs to get a glove on. And you got to at least get an out there to help A.J. Smith-Shawver get out of that first inning. There's been several times this year, balls that I thought Ozzy could have got to that he just couldn't reach and at least get a glove on. There were a couple opportunities in that McHugh outing where the Braves could have turned a double play to help him get out of a jam, and they just couldn't. Again, none of these have been ruled errors, but they're plays that you need to make. Good teams need to make, and the Braves just aren't making them right now. So again, that's what concerns me more than anything, not so much the pitching. And yes, I get it. When I tweeted that on Saturday, everybody's talking about how bad McHugh is. You can't walk the number 9 hitter. I get that. But again, I don't think McHugh's somebody we're going to be counting on in the postseason, but I am going to be counting on the defense to make those plays. And right now, they're not. Now, I do want to give credit to the bullpen on Sunday. You had a 6-6 tie going into the last 3 frames of the game. You had the Brewers bullpen, which is, really good going up against the Braves bullpen. And yes, the Braves offense is much better than the Brewers offense, but you had Jimenez, Yates, and Iglesias shut things down in the final 3 innings. 3 innings, no hits, 1 walk by Jimenez, no earned runs, and 7 strikeouts. Both Jimenez and Iglesias struck out the side. They were absolutely fantastic fantastic. So Jimenez, he's been great. He's been maybe the Braves' best reliever over the last month or two now. So that's great to see that that's finally turning into a positive trade for the Brave, one that looked like a real head scratcher for a while. So great to see Joe Jimenez really coming around. All right, next I want to take a look at our minor league level and look at some of the updates there. Got some 2023 MLB draft picks that are underway now and playing. We'll talk about those here next. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount and bonus bets up to $200. That's right, just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to what you think or who you think is going to hit the first home run, all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. The Braves will take on Shohei Ohtani and the Angels on Monday night at 7:20 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss Ohtani, Acuna, and Matt Olson. Catch every pitch of the Braves' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Braves. All right, we got a lot of news coming your way this week. Obviously, got the trade deadline happening on Tuesday. If there are any major moves that go down during that time, I'll have an emergency podcast for you to go over that. But really looking forward. Love this time of year and all the moves that are going to be made. It's a really fun time of the season. So I'll keep you up to date on all the happenings there. Otherwise, normal podcast schedule for this week. All right, taking a look at our Minors Monday, a recap here. You had A.J. Smith-Shawver making a start at the major league level with the Braves on Sunday. 5 innings, 4 hits, 4 walks, 3 earned, 3 strikeouts. Really had no control in this game and was able to get through 5 innings, which I think tells you a little bit about the stuff that A.J. Smith-Shawver has, that, again, he had nothing that he could go to in this game consistently, and he was still able to get through 5 innings. Truly incredible. I thought he was done after 4, came back out for the 5th inning, was able to get through it rather easily. He's given up 7 home runs in 21 and 2/3 innings this year. That's something that he's got to get better. He's got a lot of things he needs to get better at, but you can see the stuff. I mean, he came out pumping 97, 98 in the first inning. That tailed off more to 93, 94 later in the game. He has big fastball. He has a really good slider, and I like the curveball as well that he drops in there. He threw a couple of changeups. I thought the slider was the most consistent, best pitch he had, and it really took Murphy a while to figure that out. It wasn't really to the 3rd or 4th inning he started going to that pitch more often, but again, it's a day where he really didn't have much control, and he was still able to get through 5 innings. So you can see the talent level there for A.J. Smith-Shawver, somebody who should probably still be at Double-A working on things, but it's just a need of the Braves. They've had to go to him. Owen Murphy, 2 2/3, 3 hits, no walks, 4 earned, and no strikeouts this past week. He had 1 inning there where things just kind of got away from him, but otherwise was pretty solid, but no strikeouts. A bit of an oddity there. Braden Shoemake, 4 for 20, a double, home run, 2 walks, 6 runs. Wasn't in the last 2 games of the weekend. Not sure what's going on there, if he's injured or what. Some may be speculating he's getting talked about in trade discussions. Would not surprise me if that were the case. Spencer Schwellenbach showing on the 7-day IL for Rome. He was in the Futures game, got promoted to Rome, and hasn't pitched since. So hopefully he's okay. We'll be back soon. Darius Vines continues his way back. He's up to Gwinnett now, 4 2/3, 5 hits, 4 walks, 1 earned, and 4 strikeouts. Ambioris Tavares, just 3 for 21 this past week, but those 3 hits, a double, and 2 home runs. So when he's making contact right now, it is very loud, just not making a lot of contact. He did walk 6 times. He had 4 walks in 1 game, but still struck out 10 times. I watched the game on Thursday for Augusta. Really love the actions at shortstop. I think he can definitely stay there. He looks, he has that swag of a really confident shortstop, like he's going to make all the plays. He's just got to figure it out offensively because he's striking out 40% of the time, and that just cannot happen, especially when you're playing at Single-A. So Got to figure out something with that bat. Dylan Dodd, he has been injured. That was finally reported, and he actually made a rehab start this past week. 3 1/3 innings, no hits, no walks, no earned, 4 strikeouts. I tweeted this out. I hope this is somewhat of a reset for Dylan Dodd, somebody that I was very high on coming into the season. I think he was ranked either my 9th or 10th best prospect in the Braves system on my list. But even after spring training, you saw what he did there, and you had really high expectations for him. Season came, and it's really been downhill since then. So I'm hoping, whatever the injury was, and it was undisclosed, but I hope they're using this as a reset for Dylan Dodd, kind of work his way back up, because, again, he was really promising coming into the season, but it's just been a disaster for him ever since the regular season started. Nacho Alvarez, 6 for 24, 4 doubles, continuing to show some power there, which is great. 6 walks to 7 strikeouts. Luis Guanipa, 4 for 16, a double, a triple, no walks, and 2 strikeouts. Ed Gwinnett, Joe Dunnan, 6 for 22, 2 doubles, 4 walks. He's been fantastic this year. I wrote an article on him over at bravestoday.com. He has shown out a lot of power this season. Older player, I believe he's 27, but he's having somewhat of a breakout season at AAA, showing a lot of power. Vaughn Grissom continues to hit, 6 for 21, 2 doubles, a homer, 3 walks. If he gets traded, it better be for a controller player, because this guy, he just continues to rack up the hits every week. Jared Schuster, 6 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, 3 strikeouts, but 6 walks. So a pretty odd line there for Jared Schuster. Good to see him put up a goose egg in the run column, but 6 walks. It's been a rough year for Jared Schuster as well, after, what was a really good spring training. At Mississippi, Cody Milligan, a big week, 6 for 19, 3 doubles, a triple, a walk, 2 stolen bases. Luke Waddell, 6 for 18, 2 doubles, 3 walks. Alec Barger and Trey Riley had good weeks out of the bullpen at Mississippi. At Rome, David McCabe, maybe somebody we need to talk about a little bit more. 7 for 22, 3 doubles, 2 home runs, 6 walks this past week. On the season, between single A and high A, he's slashing 286, 390, 490 slugs, 16 doubles, 15 home runs. He's somebody, when they first drafted him out of Charlotte 2 drafts ago, he was one of the more exciting bats to me when I first saw him. But then when I watched some of his film and watched some tape on him, I didn't really love the swing. It looks very pull happy. It looks like there's a big hole in that swing, but he got off to a slow start as well at the professional level. I don't know if he's made some swing adjustments. I'm looking forward to going back and watching him once we get to the offseason, but he has been on an absolute tear really over the last month or two, especially since he got called up to high A. So David McCabe maybe playing his way into top 15, maybe top 10, becoming one of the best bats in the Braves system. My guy Kevin Kilpatrick, he's starting to get it going with the bat a little bit as well. 8 for 22 this past week, 2 doubles and 4 walks. Ethan Workinger, he's had a slow start at Rome after a great first half of the season at Augusta. He was 6 for 22 this past week with 4 doubles. Drake Baldwin had 5 hits and 6 walks. Patrick Halligan on the mound, 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, 2 earned, and 4 strikeouts. And then finally down at Augusta, Corey Acton, 10 for 20 this past week, 3 doubles, a home run, 2 stolen bases. Seth Keller, 5 1/3, no hits, no runs, 2 strikeouts. Similar line to Jared Schuster, but 5 walks. Also, like Jared Schuster, struggled with the command at times, but he was part of a combined 7-inning no-hitter down there at Augusta. So good to see that for Seth Keller. Really good prospect, just hasn't had the best year, but there's some good upside there with Seth Keller. I mentioned some of the 2023 MLB draft picks. They've gotten underway at Instructional League. Sabine Sabalos, 3 for 7, 6 walks, 2 strikeouts, 2 stolen bases. I think he's going to get called up to Augusta before too long. One of the highest bat taken by the Braves in this draft. I think he's ready for lower level, single A level baseball. I think he gets moved up pretty quickly. Been a rough start for Isaiah Wright, over 12, 2 walks and 8 strikeouts. But pretty much everybody else, Jace Grady, Wilver Dung, Cade Kern, Cam McGee, they've all got 2 or 3 hits over the first 3 or 4 games. It's very small sample sizes right now. With these games that you're looking at the Complex League, you want to see more walks than strikeouts. Now, we haven't seen any of the pitchers who have debuted yet, so you don't know what level of pitching competition they're facing right now. You want to see more walks than strikeouts, especially for these college bats, and that's mostly what we're seeing. Isaiah Wright struggling a little bit, not too surprising considering he's the one high school bat in this group. So wouldn't be surprised if he's a little bit slow out of the gate, but I think we'll see Sabalos moved up pretty quickly to full season ball. Like I said, probably get moved up to Augusta here pretty soon. Cade Kern, I've heard some really good things about, so I'm excited to see what he can do. All right, next, we'll turn our attention to trade news. If that's what you were listening for in this podcast, I apologize. It's taking me so long to get there. But next, we'll talk about the latest trade news, the Braves' small move that they made on Sunday, acquiring Nicky Lopez. We'll discuss all that next. So a little bit of trade news for the Braves on Sunday. They traded Taylor Hearn, yes, that Taylor Hearn that they just acquired, to the Kansas City Royals for Nicky Lopez. So small move here. I laughed on Twitter and commented that everybody loves Alex Anthopoulos so much right now, and deservedly so with the moves that he's made. They were praising this move like it was just genius moves of all genius moves, and I get it, and I think it's a good move. There's also a very real possibility that you don't even think about this trade a year from now, or you don't even know who Taylor Hearn or Nicky Lopez are a year from now. Lopez, he's a really good defensive player. When are you going to play him? I'm really curious to see, because the move's already been made. Go ahead, and this is the next move, the next bit of news items. They have brought back AJ Minter, they optioned AJ Smith-Shawver, they DFA'd Charlie Culberson, and they added Nicky Lopez to the roster. So Lopez is taking Charlie Culberson's spot on the bench. How many times have we seen Charlie Culberson while he's been on this team? I'm interested to see what they do with Nicky Lopez. Who are you going to insert him for? He does have time in left field. You also have Kevin Pillar, who's a really good defensive left fielder that you can plug in there as a defensive replacement if you wanted to. Are you going to plug him in for Austin Riley late in games defensively? Arcia, Albies? You're not going to plug him in at first base. He can't play first base. So I don't know how big of a move this is unless somebody gets hurt. But Nicky Lopez is very good defensively. Had a really good offensive year a couple of seasons ago. I'm not saying I don't like this move. I do think Taylor Hearn, and I said that when the Braves acquired him, I've always liked the arm. Obviously, it was a terrible first and only outing that he had with the Braves, but I've always liked the arm talent. I think there's certainly some upside there with Taylor Hearn. There's no upside with Nicky Lopez. He is what he is at this point, and I think he fills a need on this Braves roster. So in that regard, it is a smart move because you're getting somebody who's really good defensively to back up, a lot of different positions across the field. But again, in the end, this may be a no needle type of moving move here that the Braves have made. But I just thought it was interesting how much Alex Anthopoulos was getting praised on Twitter for, again, what could ultimately be a pretty insignificant move. The Angels got CJ Cron and Randall Grichuk, as well as Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez we talked about last week. Blue Jays got Jordan Hicks. Was really hoping the Braves might get him, but he goes to the Blue Jays as they just put their closer, Jordan Romano, on the IL, so that became a big need for them. Jordan Montgomery and Chris Stratton go to the Rangers from the Cardinals. Max Scherzer traded to the Rangers as well for Ronald's little brother. Hate that. I hate that we could be seeing him, that he could be playing for the Mets. We talked about that in the offseason as far as potential shortstops. If the Braves wanted to go out and get a young shortstop prospect, that they could go after Ronald's little brother, but unfortunately, he's going to be with the Mets. So really hate to see that. That's a really good move for the Mets, not just to get him, but they get Scherzer's money off the books now. So I'm sure they want to make a run at Ohtani in the offseason. If they can trade Justin Verlander and get rid of any of his money, that's going to be huge for the Mets. So I really hate this move for the Mets, but we'll see what happens long term. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot more trade news coming out. Again, I'll be checking the Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it all day long, looking for some news there. And if something comes up, I'll be sure to keep you updated and let you know here on the podcast. But you got the Angels and Braves gearing up for Monday night. The Angels are 55-51. They're 5 games back in the AL West, 4 games back in the AL wild card. They are going for it. They've decided to keep Ohtani. And like I said, they've made several big moves right now to try to bolster their lineup. So the Braves got to deal with that starting on Monday. It'll be Griffin Canning versus Charlie Morton. Canning, 4.46 ERA, 1.24 whip, 245 average against on the season. Doesn't walk a lot, gets whiffs and strikeouts, but also gets hit really hard. So we know the Braves like to hit the baseball really hard. Hopefully that's a big advantage for the Braves there. That's with Charlie Morton, back-to-back rough outings, so he's due for a good one. The way that his inconsistencies have gone, don't let Ohtani beat you. If you saw the video over the weekend of Matt Chapman in that series against the Blue Jays, where Matt Chapman was berating his manager after Ohtani hit a home run, saying, why would you pitch to him? He's the only one in that lineup who can hit. Don't let Ohtani beat you. As much as I don't want to see the Braves pitch around him, and I want to see Ohtani hit as a fan, do not let him beat you. So that's the key for Charlie Morton and the Braves in this series. Again, the Braves will take on Shohei Ohtani and the Angels on Monday night at 7:20 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss Ohtani, Acuna, Matt Olson. Hopefully Charlie Morton gets back on track as well Monday night. Catch every pitch of the Braves' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Braves. That will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of each and every day. If you're an everydayer, please let me know. Make sure that you follow the podcast on Twitter at @LockedOn_Braves. You can follow me at ShortstopBall. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. And we will talk to you next time.